and welcome to my channel. It's SoniaVerardo here from trenchcollection.com, fashion, beauty and lifestyle blog. In my today's video I would like to tell you my breastfeeding story. Now this is something I have been wanting to film for months now, but you guys will probably understand how hectic life of a busy mom can be, so it's only now that I'm able to sit down and talk about this experience with you. It's probably going to be a long video. Anyway, let's get started. Basically, before I gave birth, I knew I wanted to try to breastfeed. Well, let's rewind this a little bit in terms that when I was young and foolish, I used to think that I don't want to breastfeed at all. Like, if I ever have a baby, it will like grow up on formula. I don't want to breastfeed because it's like going to ruin my boobs or whatever. I know it was so stupid and so incredibly selfish of me to even think that, but I just wanted to tell you this because this is how I felt before. But then when I became pregnant and I entered my third trimester, and I was very emotionally attached to the baby already, and I took prenatal courses as well and some courses about breastfeeding, I realized that breastfeeding is such a natural thing. It's like a little miracle of the nature, being able to give food to your baby, especially in those first months of his or her life, because it's basically the only thing your baby needs to grow and prosper and survive, basically. So I realized if I want to have natural childbirth and I want to trust my body, I want everything to go as naturally as possible, why on earth would I not want to breastfeed? It's such a natural process, natural thing, beautiful thing. And also with breastfeeding, you're sending an impulse to your brain, telling to your body that pregnancy and the labor is over. So it helps your uterus to shrink back to its normal position, the normal shape it was before, and basically it prevents you from having complications after giving birth. And just attaching your baby on your boobs, it basically creates such a strong connection. It is true, at least in my case. So when I took that prenatal course, my choice was definitely to try to breastfeed. Now, because I grew on formula milk and I actually never had any health problems so far, touch wood, I wasn't against formula in terms that I was thinking I will try to breastfeed my baby and I will see how it goes. If for some reason I'm unable to breastfeed my baby, I am willing to give him formula, because for me the only important thing is for my baby to grow and prosper, to become healthier and stronger, and just not to starve. So that was my main goal. I wasn't really obsessing about having to exclusively breastfeed, otherwise I will be depressed. No, this is not how I started this whole journey. Also, I knew that I have introverted nipples, so that it might be a little bit more challenging for me to breastfeed. So I was aware of that. Now, after giving birth, the midwife that actually was there for me when I was giving birth, she helped me attach my baby to my boobs, and he attached immediately. So I thought that would go quite smoothly then, but that wasn't the case. Actually, that midwife was the only one in the whole entire hospital that was able to attach him to my boobs, and I obviously wasn't able to because I was inexperienced, and also he was so little, and my nipples were introverted, and when other nurses that came, you know, regularly to check me up saw my breasts, they said, "You're not going to be able to breastfeed. Oh, breastfeeding with that type of nipples, oh, good luck." They brought me nipple shields, you know, and said that this is the only way I can, you know, try to breastfeed, because otherwise I won't have any chance of him attaching. And this is the support that I got at the hospital, that is very keen on breastfeeding. Now, they are so keen on a natural breastfeeding that they organize courses, and also they won't promote any formula. They will give you formula in case if it's really, you know, necessary, if baby is dropping on weight more than normal. They won't even recommend any brand of formulas, just because they are so keen on having you breastfeed naturally, because they work with UNICEF and all that stuff. So when they actually came to that conclusion that, you know, my nipples are lost case, should we say so, I was pretty convinced that this is going to be, you know, quite challenging for me. Now, the most challenging part was in the hospital. Like the first day, okay, your baby sleeps because he has gone through the labor as well as you did, so he needs to rest. But the second and third day, he tried to latch on, and he did on nipple shield, but as my milk did not even came yet, I only had like drops of colostrum, or how would you call it in English. He did not really get much, so he was losing weight, and I did not know that because I was so inexperienced, and the hospital staff did not do anything until the night before we were meant to leave the hospital. So he would cry constantly even at night time because he was hungry, you know, and I couldn't feed him, and it was so incredibly difficult for me to attach him even with nipple shields. And I was ringing for the nurses, but when they came, they did not even think that he might be hungry. He was like, "Oh, he's just fussy, you have to calm him by, I don't know, swaying him around or things like so." And they were actually quite annoyed that I called them. So when they weighed him and realized that he had dropped more than normal on his weight, they started him on formula. They were bringing me formula like every 3 hours that night, and I basically had a timer on my watch every 3 hours. I did not even sleep, you know. Every 3 hours I would call the nurse and she would bring me formula milk, like 20 grams, you know, what he needed back then when he was so little. And that was his like first contact with the milk. When they released me from the hospital, they did not want to recommend any formula milk because of that you know, whole thing that they do with UNICEF. But they told me that he should eat a certain amount of grams of milk per day every 3 hours. And the first thing that we did, basically we went in a store that sells everything for the babies, and we bought formula milk, and we also bought nipple shields, because those were the nipple shields that they actually recommended for me. They wrote the model for me and the size and everything, so I did not go on my own initiative to buy nipple shields, you know. And they recommended Medela nipple shields. I could do a review on these in case you're interested. That might be interesting as well for some of you who are struggling with similar problem as I had. I was convinced at that point that we would like continue with formula milk. His main source of food would be formula milk, just because, you know, he wasn't getting enough from my milk. Now, on the third day, like exactly punctually third day after giving birth, my milk came in, and I did have quite a bit of milk. But when you're nursing with nipple shields, It's more difficult because there isn't direct contact between you and your baby, so you aren't producing enough milk, because when your baby attaches directly to your nipples, basically those hormones are released that send impulse to your brain to produce and produce and produce milk. But when that contact is missing, because there is barrier between you, your milk production is still going on, but it's not as much as needed. But you know, I kept going on. I even saw one obstetrician that told me, you know, just to keep going and to attach him before we give him formula, like every time before each meal, to attach him first on my boobs. And so I did that. Even more than that, I really kept him constantly attached, basically, for hours and hours. And every now and then I would try to take off the nipple shield and just see if he would latch on. And I remember he was so frustrated. He would cry because he couldn't latch on, and sometimes he couldn't even latch on with nipple shields. Sometimes they would slide off, and it was just so frustrating. But I tried not to get frustrated, because I knew that if I'm frustrated, my baby will sense that, and he will, you know, be even more frustrated. So basically, in those first months, first 2 months, for sure, his main source of food was formula milk. But still, I kept him attached. He was latching, you know, 24/7. I kept him attached whenever he wanted. Also, I tried expressing with these. I just have like the manual one. I don't have the electric one. It's Nuvita, by brand Nuvita. It's not expensive at all, this one. And just to see, you know, how much am I producing, and it would be very, very hard for me to arrive up to 120 milliliters, or like 4 fluid ounces. Extremely hard, you know. But the obstetrician that came to check me said that this as well would help me to kind of modulate my nipples, you know, so with time it would get easier for him to latch. And she also suggested me to like express my milk, or start expressing, and when I see my nipple like coming through, then I should try to make him latch. And I was trying and failing regularly. They said that your milk production is kind of regulated in the first 4 to 6 weeks, and that's why it's very important to breastfeed on demand. And if after 4 or 6 weeks your milk isn't enough, then probably it won't even get enough anyway, so you should just continue with formula. 6 weeks have passed, and you know, my milk still wasn't enough. So I was kind of resignated with the fact that he was going to grow up mainly on formula milk. I was like not too upset about it, because, as I've said, I grew up on formula, exclusively on formula. But still, I kept breastfeeding him, just because I really liked that connection. Even though it was with nipple shields, there was a barrier, but I really loved that connection between us. Now I was breastfeeding with a nipple shield, so I did not get any like soreness, and I did not have any cracking in my nipples, and I was using a nipple cream as well. So that basically helped. One sunny day, should we say so, I just, you know, removed the nipple shield and, you know, tried for the 1000th time to have him latch without nipple shield, and he latched, you know, he latched, and I couldn't believe to my eyes. He latched and I did not have a nipple shield. So that was a kind of breakthrough for me, and that really motivated me to, you know, keep trying. And from that day it was easier, it was getting easier and easier to have him latch on my boobs without nipple shield. So first it was on this breast here that he was able to latch, and I still had to use nipple shield for this one, and then eventually he was able to latch on both. Now I can tell you that once I stopped like obsessing about it, he latched, but I think it was also because he like grew, he was a little bit stronger and bigger, so he was able to latch better and just, you know, suck my nipple out, because before he just wasn't able to do that, he was too small, you know. But guys, I still did not have enough milk, so we still kept formula feeding him, complementary, along with breastfeeding. And then I thought, you know, maybe it's just the way it is, I don't produce enough milk, because I don't know why, maybe because my boobs are very, very small, you know, maybe my body just, you know, can't meet these needs. Then I started doing some really serious research on the internet, and I went on the Leche League as well, Leche League page, and I really informed myself and realized that there is actually no reason for me not to have enough milk, because if I drink enough fluids, like really lots of fluids, and maybe eat soups, things that can really help you in having enough liquids and fluids in your organism, there is really no reason for me not to be able to provide for the needs of my baby, you know. Each organism can do that, and it does not depend on the size of the boobs. Size of your boobs does not matter, whether they are big or small, you know, you are able to breastfeed your baby, and you're able to produce as much as your baby needs and wants. Only 5% of women aren't able to breastfeed because they have some sort of medical condition, or they have like deformed breasts or something like that. So those are medical facts. So once I realized that, I kept breastfeeding and breastfeeding. Also, I kept preparing him formula milk until there was a day when he started refusing formula milk. Like, he really started refusing it. He never really loved the bottle anyway. When I first came from the hospital, we gave him formula with like pinky finger, like it was on a syringe and pinky finger, so he would not get used on bottle. But when we had to mostly formula feed him, then we did give him a bottle, but he hated the bottle, he really did. So it wasn't really difficult for him to ditch the bottle at all. He much preferred the boobs. When he was like around 3 months old, even a little bit sooner I think, I started breastfeeding him exclusively. I would prepare him formula, but I was throwing those bottles away because he would not want to eat them. And trust me that I was concerned whether he's getting enough, whether he's hungry or not. But you know, he was telling me, he was basically telling me with all the signs that he's getting enough from my milk, you know, from my breast. So I was so happy and so thrilled. So basically my advice would be for you not to give up, to be confident that you can provide enough milk for your baby, because there is really no reason for you not to. Even if those 6 weeks pass and you still don't have enough milk, just insist and be there for whenever your baby wants and cries, and for how long he wants, because in all this time, whenever he wanted to drink, he would drink for as long as he wanted, you know. I never interfered with that, you know. Even if it was hours, I left him for hours. And I personally feel that this really has helped, because from having little to no milk, I was able to, you know, provide solely for all his milk needs. Plus I did have this issue with inverted nipples. You know, my case was really difficult, but I managed to succeed, and I'm very proud of that. And I really want to spread out the message that guys, if if you are like desperate, if you think that there is no way you're going to be able to do it, trust me, you can do it. And by the way, I also wanted to mention that once I abandoned the nipple shields, and when he started latching on my nipples, particularly this one was so sore in terms that when he latched, I really wanted to bite into a piece of wood because it was so painful for a minute or two, but then afterwards it was better. When he was drinking, it was better, but when he attached that moment, it was horrible. And it was like this for a good 2 or even 3 weeks. But you know, bite into the wood if you have to, but if you really want to provide for your baby, it is possible. You know, just have to be confident, because I hear a lot of women, a lot of even my friends saying, oh, I just don't have enough milk. But you can have enough milk, you can, but it's a lot of work. And also you have to be really confident that you can do it, you know, because if you convince yourself that you aren't able to provide, you're probably going to end up, you know, on formula. And yeah, but obviously I'm not here to judge in any way, because I am the first one who before even having a kid thought that those women who breastfeed until their kids are 2 or 3 are like, you know. But what did I know? What did I know? Because when you don't have kids, you cannot even dare to say anything or to have an opinion about those things, because now I can see that my priority is to breastfeed him for at least until he's 1, if I can, if I'm healthy, if I don't need to take any medicine, if I have milk, why not, you know. Obviously I don't want this to go on until he's 4 or 5, but I just want to give him the best that I possibly can, especially now that we have overcome together this huge obstacle, and we ditched the formula, so why not keep breastfeeding. Now my baby is almost 6 months old, and the pediatrician actually gave us advices and recipes on how to start weaning. We aren't doing baby-led weaning just because, I don't know, I think the traditional way is better for us. Plus I am, you know, listening to the advice of my pediatrician, so we are going towards that direction. And so far he is liking it, but maybe this is a topic for another video, because this one is getting too long. Anyway guys, this is my story. I think I mentioned pretty much everything, but if you do have any specific question about breastfeeding and my experience, just please leave me your comments. I would be more than happy to help out if I can, with advice or word of comfort and word of support. I'm here for you if you need me, so just drop me a line and I will make sure to reply you as soon as possible. In my next video I might do some other reviews, maybe of Medela nipple shields if you would like to, and I have some more mom and baby related subjects that I would like to talk about here. In case you are curious to know more about my pink hair, then don't miss out on my video review of L'Oreal Colorista in dirty pink hair. I will have the link down below in the info box, so go ahead and check that video out. Now I'm sending you all a huge